Hello everybody and welcome to the 2023 British Touring Car Season Review with myself Viper, and with me is my good friend Ben. Say hello.
Hello.
So this is going to be more of an overview season review, so feel free to leave this on. We're going to be chatting amongst ourselves. Feel free to leave this on the background. It will be quite a long one. How long it will be exactly, I don't know. I have put some gameplay in the background to this, so hopefully you enjoy. I'm not sure whether it's Toka 1, 2 or whatever, but hopefully you enjoyed that as we talk about the 2023 British Touring Car season. Now we're going to get a few things out of the way first and foremost. The 2023 season was not as exciting as previous seasons, or seasons that we've done in the past, and finding a lot of highlights was a bit tricky, but surprisingly there was a few highlights aside from Napa's domination, which we'll briefly mention. There was actually a fair bit more to that, wasn't there, Ben, than we actually thought?
Yeah, like coming out of it, you could look at it sort of like the year when Audi dominated. You go, oh, Napa did everything, the cars were amazing, you know, like, haha, Sutton had them all. But if you look actually into it, there's quite a lot of bits that happened around that, and as always, the British Touring Car Championship performed quite well in having something interesting happen on track. At least at every meeting there was something that went on, and the title contenders sure gave it a good shot, but fell at different hurdles for different reasons we'll cover in this video.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll kind of kick things off. So again, these are in no particular order. We're just going to mention these, what we thought were some interesting points on and off the season. So first thing that we would definitely need to mention is that the coverage this year, in terms of, well, the YouTube side of things anyway. So obviously, for those that don't know, British Touring Cars has had, I don't know for how long, but they've always broadcasted the qualifying on itv.com. You can get the live timings on the BTCC, or if you're at the event itself, you can obviously watch it live. But for the most part, it's never usually broadcast. It never has been broadcast over on YouTube. Now we'll cover that in detail another day. But the coverage this year in terms of that was a lot better. We had full races being uploaded to the ITV Sport YouTube channel, and like I said, the full qualifying sessions, including, if I'm right in saying, Ben, your favourite part, which was the top 10 shootouts.
Yeah, I loved the top 10 shootouts. It reminded me a lot of like aspects of other racing series that I watch, like NASCAR, Aussies, supercars, sort of a bit of like endurance racing. Theirs is slightly different throughout the year, but it's sort of, I quite like the top 10 idea of it, where you basically have the cream of the crop for that weekend of whoever it could be has their chance to go out for glory with, you know, like a little bit of fun as that little bit of extra qualifying action, which I loved. I really did like it a lot. It was a good addition to the series in my eyes. Hopefully it carries on for like, you know, a couple more seasons or anything, as long as it possibly can do. Maybe some interesting refinement to it or something, I don't know. I quite liked how it was, but yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, it was, I mean, we can't really go through qualifying without mentioning Napa. I mean, Napa probably will come up a few times, but we are going to try and reduce how many times we mention this, because everyone knows Napa was dominant, that's the end of it, Sutton's champion, that's that. But they took 9 out of 10 pole positions for the season. The other being Mikey Doble, who's in his debut season with Power Max Racing. We said at the time when we covered Silverstone that it was great to see someone new come into the season and do really well. George Gamble did it last year, so to see Mikey Doble do that, along with Andrew Watson, who was the guy who won the Jack Sears Trophy, which went all the way down to the wire as well. That's another point I've mentioned here. The one of the main key things, though, more than anything else, is the season had a few similarities back to the 1997 season. So we had a blue and yellow car, albeit back in 1997 we had the Renault Laguna of Alain Menu and Jason Plato that was dominant and won the title. There never was much wrong with that car either back in the day. Not a lot went wrong with it. And the driver, which was Alain Menu, was pretty much in his prime as well, and with Sutton being the same, there was a few similarities. You know, there was a fair few wins set by Sutton, and obviously he tied the most amount of wins in the season with Menu, which was 12 out of 24 for him. He had a better win rate. And I think it was Giovanardi as well who got 12 wins as well in 2008, I think. So yeah, you could just tell there was a lot in, like I said, a lot in common with 1997. Mainly the blue and yellow car, but also a driver at his prime. So it seemed to tie hand in hand, realistically. As I said, it was Ash Sutton who looked unstoppable with 12 wins. Ingram himself, in my opinion anyway, I thought he had a great title defence, but he came up short through some bad luck, much of which seemed to be thrown his way during the season, which included a big one, which was the disqualification at Knockhill for a failed ride-out check. But what did you make of Ingram's season, Ben?
In my eyes, it's sort of... I wouldn't say it was peak Ingram this year. Like, yeah, a lot of bad things happened, but like, I don't know. For me, just the spark wasn't there as much for me. And as a huge Ingram fan with Ingram merch and everything, it's like, it was a bit sad for me to sort of see. Yeah, it still went down to the wire, and a lot of the issues were not his own fault. I don't know, it just wasn't there for me this year. I don't know whether, like, in my eyes, he might be in the back of my head not the underdog anymore, and I've always been a big follower of an underdog, and now he's sort of like being the champion. It might, like, I might be more in the favour of Jake Hill now than him. I don't know, but the spark wasn't there either for me or for him.
I mean, he didn't do too bad, I don't think, but I think, like, as you said, I'm not going to turn around and say he's washed, because I think that would be a bit too strong. But
no, he's going to get some more in the future. I can see a good couple of him and Sutton going for it for a couple of championships in the future, I hope. Sort of like your Neil and Plato, but less trying to kill each other.
I mean, the positive
racing against each other.
The positive that I saw with Ingram, realistically, was the fact that aside from the disqualification that he got at Knockhill, he didn't actually retire from any races. Like, there was not a single race where he retired. He had, apart from a few times where he didn't score that many points and Sutton scored a win, or he scored a lot of points. Yeah, I think obviously Ingram's season could have gone better. I think had he kept that win at Knockhill, it would have been it would have still been a tough battle, but I think he would have also, obviously, if you knock that off what Sutton ended the season with, I still think it's 30 odd points. So yeah, I think he still would have won the season with maybe a race to spare, deciding, everything depending. I mean, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'll see what would have happened, but obviously we can't go back and change the past. So there you go. But just to move on to the guy who spent a lot of time in the shade, despite knocking up 4 wins. Actually, no, not took more than that. He knocked up 5. But Jake Hill, even though he got 2 doubles, one at Alton Park and one at Knockhill, he got a finale win in race 3 at Brands Hatch at the Grand Prix circuit. Turkington proved that age isn't everything, as he scored 2 wins during the season as well. But I think BMW, I don't think they're anywhere this season, even though they scored, what was it, like 6 or 7 wins. They scored a fair few wins between the drivers. I don't think they had that much against the Napa Ford. I mean, again, that Ford was on rails. I mean, even the drivers were, putting in great laps during qualifying, and tracks where the BMW used to be strong are just not as strong as they once were. It was very interesting to see with BMW's drop off. That's not to say they didn't have a great season, because they did. It's just a case of the title charge went pretty quickly. But we'll get on to them a bit later on. So one of the other things that we did mention before, we mentioned Andrew Watson and Mikey Doble. Aaron Taylor-Smith, another one of the other Power Max Racing driver, he had a great second half of the season. He took a podium outright at Silverstone, took several wins in the Independence Championship, and I think had he had the form he had in the second half of the season in the first half, they would have been a title charge there in terms of independence anyway. But I don't know. I mean, what did you make of BMW and Aaron Taylor-Smith, Ben?
Yeah, like you said with BMW, it was not a good season for them. The thing that I do see that is I don't see them working as a team. I see it as it's the other lot, and then it's Jake Hill. And if they maybe worked more with Jake Hill, they could have done better, a lot better. But because they don't work well as a team, this is their downfall. I've said it in the past, and if Jake Hill ever needs a support guy, it seems like Turkington doesn't want to do it. He has his own agenda and he's not about it. It has been proven in the past and been shown. He's either that or he's just rubbish at helping someone because he's never really had to do it. But either way, they don't work the best as a team in my eyes. I've not seen it. I don't see that much support for Jake Hill. He seems like the guy by himself is just driving a BMW. There's that, so I don't think that helped him at all. It definitely didn't help Jake. And Aaron Taylor Smith, yeah, just insane second half of the season. I mean, you look at that and it's just like, I would never have predicted that in a million years. Going into the season, if you'd said Aaron Taylor Smith's gonna like take podium outright in all this, I'd be like, nah, nope.
I mean, whilst we're on the topic of Power Max Racing, we was actually just saying this before we started, but realistically, that team for us anyway, definitely in my eyes anyway, I don't know about you, Ben, but it's definitely been a dark horse. Like I didn't expect nothing against Power Max Racing or the Vauxhall Astra or anything like that. The car's getting really old now. It's not like decades old, but it is getting, I mean, I suppose Plato says, the car's past its best. I think it was about 2 or 3 years ago, a couple of years ago, but even that was able to take a pole this year and come close to winning Silverstone with Aaron Taylor Smith. I don't. That team for me has just been one of them where they've gone, where you just sat back and you've gone, wow, I've not really, like when you're not looking and something spectacular is happening, you just don't realise. I think that's what Power Max Racing did. Granted, at the start of the season, they weren't on the back foot. They had a pretty good, strong opening race weekend at Donington. But as the season went on, I never really took notice of them. Now, as we got more and more to the season, I was like, you know what, I'm going to keep an eye on these lads because they're starting to impress me. Watson was obviously doing great in the Jack Sears Trophy. In the Independence, he was starting to challenge Josh Cook. Doble obviously had his standout Silverstone pole, and Taylor Smith got a podium there and could have got a win. But it was just mad. For a season for what's raced, I don't think this season could have gone any better. I think. What would you say, Ben? Would you say they were punching above their weight?
Yeah, definitely. I think they're punching above what that car can do, more to the point. Like you said, that car is just, it's old now. Like, you need a new car, a new chassis really, but I get why they don't. The costs and like everything going into that is insane, and as they're not like factory supported or anything, that's a rough ask for a team like them. So I get why it's not happening, but if it could happen, damn, they could be seriously insane to see. And with how their team works, they could probably be better than BMW if they got their act together with a good, even factory supported car quickly. They could beat BMW with the right support.
Yeah, I think given the right backing, it's hard to see them getting beaten anytime soon. I mean, they're not Napa. I know that. They're not like the fastest team. They're not the greatest team on the grid, but
no, but they work well.
Yeah, they have that nice cozy atmosphere. I mean, we saw this year that the reason Napa worked so well between the 4 drivers, even if they had contrasting fortunes, is that they worked as a team. They were like a family team, and I think that was, as you said, BMW lacked that, whereas Power Max Racing didn't.
Yeah,
so that might be why. Yeah, I mean, it just proves, doesn't it, it's teamwork.
Accelerate get on really well. You see with all the stuff to do behind the scenes of like the little kart type racing thing, and drift karts and all that. They get on well.
Well, speaking of Accelerate, let's bring them up from it. So obviously we mentioned about Tom Ingram, but in regards to the rest of the team, so we've got Tom Chilton, who took a surprise win at the season opener.
Yeah, great to see. I love that.
Pearson was on track for a win at Knockhill. and obviously dropped back, and obviously Sutton's tyres came alive and he floored it past him. And obviously we had the Ingram taking Pearson for the podium in race 3 at Knockhill as well. But in terms of the season for that entire team, what would you say about it? Because I think apart from Ingram, I think that Chilton had one or two moments during the season. Pearson was in the mid pack, and obviously Halstead was at the back.
Yeah, that was it really. It's like it goes from the top of the roller coaster and it just slowly drops away. Like Chilton still has it, he definitely still has it. It's great to see him in the sport, but then after that, it's like it's just moments for the other two, and it's hard because they all get on so well.
I think the only one
for the other two drivers in I think it's maybe the talent in getting used to the sport with the other two. I would give them credit on
I was going to say Pearson's, it was his first.
Time in yeah, that's what I mean. They need more time in the sport and then see how they do. If 3 or 4 years down the line they're still doing equally as well, it's clearly not working for them. You should start looking elsewhere. But right now it's hard to say for the other two what could happen. You don't know, they could figure something out, and maybe the car's not set up for what they want at all. It could be just purely set up for Ingram style, and luckily Chilton can get behind that. So they work really well as a team. They're definitely a brilliant team with each other as all the drivers, but there's something not quite there. But I think even the team did say they needed quite a few more improvements on that car going into the next season anyway, so you never know, they could have some sort of hidden element next year, and I hope they do.
Yeah, exactly. Well, fingers crossed they can get a bit more power out of it, that's for sure. Speaking of the family thing, we briefly touched on Napa, and again, I've said we'll try and keep Napa to a minimum. But in terms of Napa's performance, so obviously we've covered Ash Sutton 100 times over this season with our race reviews, so we're kind of going to skip past him for now. Like I said, I briefly mentioned him. He took 12 when, the amount of poles he took, it was just ridiculous. But moving on to his teammates, so if we look at his teammates, we've got Dan Camish, Dan Rowbottom and Sam Osborne. Camish started off strong at the season opener, but as the season went on, his driving just didn't seem to be up to the task. He quickly fell behind Sutton, Rowbottom nearly got the better of him, and Rowbottom himself had the season to forget, as his performance dwindled after the first half of the season. Osborne was obviously fighting for the Jack Sears trophy and tried to fight the independents at the start of the year, but obviously quickly burnt out from that one, as Josh Cook took the helm and disappeared into the distance. But in terms of Napa's performance, what would you give that? Not out of 10, but what would you say about Napa's performance other than Sutton's just domination?
Yeah, other than that, then you can kind of look at it as
would you say it has the same problem as Accelerate, where it's you've got one main drive and the other three are trying to play catch up?
It has that same problem, apart from the car's not the issue with Napa, because that car is very good. I think it's more the drive. Some of the drivers definitely not. They can't go with the style of that car. I pointed out to you a few times, I think I mentioned it on a couple of our reviews, that car works better when you bounce it around a corner on 3 wheels, so you're not dragging that extra wheel, and the front wheel drive can just turn away. And it maybe don't work as well for Rowbottom and especially Osborne. I don't think the style of driving it works that way, because if you watch especially Osborne, he wasn't getting the car up onto the one wheel lifting off the ground on, what would I say, maybe Croft. I think it was Croft.
Yeah.
He wasn't bouncing it round like the others were, and I was watching on the broadcast more to see how all of them is doing, because you could see with Sutton, he's just flying it round, bouncing on all the tyres, and you can see lifting some off the ground, proper going for it, his usual style. He did the same in the Infinity. And then you see Camish, pretty similar. And then Rowbottom, slightly less, but still pretty similar. And Osborne, no, it didn't seem like the car lifted up. It seemed like it was planted around and just keeping it level, which makes sense, and I get why he's doing it. It's usually, on the racing point of view of most cars, you need to keep it planted and steady, to keep most grip. But I think with that car, it's set up to bounce around on 3 tyres, and he couldn't get used to it, especially.
Yeah, I think if there's one thing that Napa did well this year was definitely getting the car settled, that's for sure. They also seem to have a big amount of fun with liveries, with the obviously the Scottish kilt design that they had at Knockhill, the Valvoline flashback at Silverstone for Sam Osborne with the was it 1994 Radicic livery? I think it was, wasn't it?
Sure it was, yeah, the Mondeo one.
And one that I quite appreciated at the finale being there in person was the gold livery that they got after Ash had won his title. Yeah, it was an interesting year for the livery for that Napa Ford. I think compared to the other teams, not only did they have the weird thing is not only did Napa have like the best team, but they had the best designs as well. I'm not just saying that to seem biased to Napa here, but they actually had a completely different livery in some cases. Like the Valvoline one, or they make the car have the gold livery on it like they did at the end, or the Scottish kilt design. As far as I know, not many other teams really had, other than maybe Team Hard, but even then they had like default colours changes. There wasn't really too much to it. But yeah, apart from the obvious, I think it was a year that Napa could just go, yeah, we've done, we've conquered, and we're moving on. Speaking of moving on, so one team that did get left in the dark this year a lot was One Motorsport. So this is the team that took over from BTC Racing last year. So yeah, Josh Cook at the helm with Aidan Moffat and Will Powell, I believe it was, that was there. Eventually he left and Jade Edwards joined, so it was more Jade, Aidan and Josh. So to kind of sum up their season, so Josh Cook had a season that went well for the most part. However, he never got the outright win, which is what he was trying to get. He won the Independence Championship, but I think even he knows, like, if he wants to make a statement in the BTCC, winning Independence is great if you're a rookie coming into the sport, but once you've won Independence several times like he has, especially twice in a row at the current stage, and you're like, I'm winning for a team, but I'm not getting outright victories, and I want to actually fight for a proper title. Like, yeah, okay, he wins the trophy. I think even he said this himself. He wins the Independent Championship, which gives him a trophy, so he still wins some sort of trophy, championship, whatever. But he always wants to win. He's made this, like every other driver, is to win the British Touring Cars, and he's still never got the chance to do it. Granted, that car has been down on power, I think, this year. There was a few times at the start of the season where things were going wrong, and even at Thruxton, like a circuit that Josh loves, he still couldn't get a win, which was just shocking. Speaking of the team's bad luck, I think there's nobody that can sum up how bad One Motorsport's season was without bringing up Jade Edwards. She had a terrible season, a lot of bad luck hitting her when she was in point scoring positions. She had 7 retirements over the season, which was the most of any driver. And to make things even worse, she was dead last in the championship with -5 points, along with Nick Halstead. So that just puts into perspective just how bad of a season not only she had, but how bad of a season One Motorsport had. Yes, okay, they won. Josh won the Independence Drivers. The team won the Independent Constructors, but when there's no other team fighting for it, it seems a bit ill. I think it was muted celebrations when they won it. I think, to be honest, if Josh Cook doesn't get wins again, or he doesn't even have a good championship, I can see him going, to be honest. I don't know about you, Ben.
Yeah, and the other thing with Jade was she did change team midway through the season, but even with that, it never got better for her when she changed team, really. It sort of seemed like she just changed car and stayed in the same sort of positions with the same problems, and anytime she'd have a chance of going for like a good couple of points and getting there, disaster would strike. And it's just, I don't know, I can see her maybe thinking about looking at something as well if it carried on this same way for maybe 1 or 2 more seasons. She could even like decide to go, you know what, I can't get the drive that I'd like let's say a Toyota or above sort of team, that factory drive that everybody wishes it could grab hold of. I don't know, I could see her leaving and Cook if it carried on.
Well, speaking of teams that had a bit of a nightmare. We can't really go there without talking about one team. Now, you guys probably know who we're talking about, but we can't mention this year without talking about Team Hard. And there's a lot to unwrap with this team. So Team Hard, it's split up into several different mini teams. They have had a lot of fun with driver signings during the season. They had no more than 10 racing drivers driving that Cupra over the course of the year. Now, I would give you the full list, but the list is, I mean, it's 10 people, but yeah, it's ridiculous. It was pretty ridiculous. They came into the season, and I was talking to a few people, myself and Ben had a chat about this as well, and they had 6 cars to start the season, and it's bizarre to think a team can run 10 drivers in a season, but also 6 cars separated into little teams. Like, granted, they're all like, oh, we're this with Team Hard, or we're, you know, go fun with whatever. It's still Team Hard. It's still run under the Team Hard banner, and it seems to be, if anything, no offense to the guys or the girls that run the team, but it seems to be a laughing stock. It was something that was brought up time and time again, that Team Hard should never have been allowed to have that many drivers being signed, but also to enter that many cars under different little teams.
Maybe 4 at a push.
Yeah.
But not like 6. Like I said, if you got rid of 2 of their cars, that'd give you 2 slots on the grid for even another team to join, and maybe even another different type of manufacturer car could come on. Yeah, it'd probably be an independent, but you could see something interesting happen. But because like 6 slots are took by a team that runs, in my eyes, an outdated chassis car with a load of half-measure, independent-ish little teams that aren't running cohesively, it's just a waste of grid slots with like the 6.
Yeah,
take 2 off them, maybe take 3 off them. There you go. That now it seems like it's a fair deal for them.
I mean, in terms of trying to find positives for Team Hard, other than the fact that they had 10 drivers driving for them over the course of the year, there was barely any
drivers in 1 year. They've won that.
Exactly. In terms of actual positives, it was quite hard to find. There is one that stands out more than any other. There's also a massive negative that stands out more than any other. And we're not talking about 10 drivers thing either. The main positive, which Ben, you've mentioned before, is Nick Hamilton when he scored points at the season opener, race 2, I think it was.
I'm so happy me and you were there. Yeah,
and it was a great race for a start. But I mean, to be honest, Ben,
pandemonium at the track. Me and you didn't have a clue what was going on, or anyone around us. People were even asking me and you where people were.
Yeah, we was like, I don't know.
It was just insanity because it was raining that hard. Like, we were struggling to see the board on the other side of the track from where we sit anyway, and it was just sort of. It was just insanity, and then all of a sudden you're like, Nick Hamilton is when they're going for all stuff, like, whoa, no way.
Yeah, at first we thought it was a joke that he was in, I think he was like 3rd or 4th at one stage, and it was like, there's no way.
Thought we'd heard it wrong. And then me and you started counting cars, so right, we know who's in first, so as they come past, we're both just going to count everyone. Because then we'll know where they are by just remembering like the old school way, whatever comes past, that's...
And even at worst, I think he was like 6th in our eyes.
Because a lot of them got like a lap down, didn't they? Because of the whole pit fiasco. So at that point, someone was somewhere.
Yeah, he did extremely well to get them points. I think it was definitely a memorable day for him and a memorable day for that team.
Yeah, and I think his brother was there hiding in the crowd was pretty cool too. Not far from us.
Yeah, exactly. I think it just kind of proved. But the thing is that Donington Park race was also the same place where they had their biggest upset and heartbreak, because they had Dan Lloyd. He was leading at the Grand Prix version of Donington Park later in the year. It was race 3.
Yeah, that was awful.
And I think it was a drive shaft or suspension, a spring or something. Something snapped and he went off the road with literally like half a lap to go.
I think he had 4 corners left.
Yeah, it was heartbreaking to see.
Yeah, I was close to like being like in tears or just pure insane anger, because I was screaming at the TV like the lap before that and the lap before that. I was just screaming like, come on, keep defending. And then all of a sudden when that happened, I was like, everything just sort of left my body. It was awful, really awful. He did so well on the interviews afterwards to keep it like and speak to people. I was like, brilliant on him, like, well done. But that was just an awful thing to see. It wasn't like the worst of things I've seen in motor race on TV live, but it was rough. It was hard to just see it get snatched.
Not to say that there was a Viper curse involved in that one, but I was sat round the corner, and after he disappeared from my view, he then had his thing snap, and it went off. So I was like, it was just, it was bad. I was trackside that day watching, and I was literally on the corner before it snapped on the inside, and we saw him go round, obviously come through sector 1, go into sector 2, and then he went round the top, and then just disappeared behind the grass bank, and we watched the TV, and obviously 2 seconds later, bang, I was like, oh my, no way. And speaking of which as well, it's hard to mention that without mentioning who won it. So the person that won that race, actually, was Rory Butcher. He won it for Toyota. That was their only win of the year, and essentially, had Lloyd stayed, Toyota wouldn't have won anything. To make things worse, Toyota's season this year, I thought it was going to take off, because I was like, you've got George Gamble there, who's been in BMW, showed what he could do last year, did really well, got an outright win. I was like, yeah, that's a great signing. Then Collard somehow returns after retiring, but not really retiring because he couldn't make his mind up. So you had that going on, and I was like, you got Butcher, and Butcher's known to be decent. Anyway, front wheel drive, he's getting there with Toyota. So to see them do as bad as they did, that was quite a shock. I don't know about you.
Yeah, definitely. It was like, you've got the whole manufacturer thing and everything's going on, and then all of a sudden you just see like there's just nothing coming from it. And you look at them in World Endurance, they're destroying everyone like Napa is here. So it's not like Toyota Gazoo Racing can't do it. I'm pretty sure in Rally they won that, didn't they, as well, like in WRC.
Yeah. They were a good force.
Racing, yeah, Toyota Gazoo Racing can do it. Apart from British Touring Cars.
Yeah, but the thing is...
the problem be it's only 2 drivers? It could be. Maybe they should take some of them Team Hard slots away from them and add some more drivers, It could make a difference. It does prove that, by the looks of it, if you have more drivers, you have some bad ones, you have some really good ones, and you get more points out of the good ones. Maybe that could be the thing they're missing. But then you should also look and think, yeah, but you only have 2 cars, so really you have to concentrate on 2 cars. You can shove all that manufacturer power on them 2 cars, and it's just somehow not clicking.
That's it. Well, speaking of Toyota, we're going to move on to your favourite driver, Ben, which is Ricky Collard.
Flashy lights, baby.
Yeah, I'll let you take this one. I'll let you take this away.
He's my favourite retired driver who isn't retired at the current moment, because, Collard's just awesome. I loved his dad, met his dad a good few times, he was awesome to see. The scrap man, he was really good to see, and it's just, I like him. He's one of them where I think on a lot of certain times he could have had a chance to have gone really far, as you'll easily mention, he's had a good couple of awful ones just this year. Yeah, I would have loved to have seen him maybe in the championship contention, going for it. They wouldn't have had the manufacturer, but it would have been cool to see, maybe, I don't know, going to, Silverstone, maybe, if he somehow was in, the top 4. That would have been brilliant.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, is that in terms of what he did, I think we could probably sum this up pretty easily, which is Ricky Collard, known quite simply for his antics that happened at Brands Hatch Indy because of the fact of we had the track limits thing, and quite crucially, as something that Ben actually said before, is that he became a bit of a meme for this season. Like you said, flashing his lights, and a lot of time he was on camera. But yeah, he's a great guy to talk to. I actually got to meet him at Alton Park this year. Awesome. But yeah, it was. I think overall he's done he's not done brilliant. He's not done great. He's done average. I think he could have improved, and I think next year, providing he doesn't say I'm retiring again, actually stays, he might be able to build on that.
Come back. He's already shown he can say that now. So just say it anyway for laughs.
Well, he might do. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll bring his dad in.
But just to go back to Team Hard for a second here. So what are the things that we didn't mention? We mentioned about Team Hard having a merry-go-round. What are the drivers that once again took my attention, and maybe less so for other people, but I don't know. Obviously, again, it's all down to what you guys think of this, what we talk about, whether you agree, whether you don't agree. But I thought Bobby Thompson did quite well, even though he missed a few rounds due to financial troubles. Obviously, we covered that in the season review, the race reviews that we've done. I think had he stuck around for the full season, then, as in he didn't have the financial troubles, again, can't be helped, but had he had not the financial troubles and he did stick around for the full season, I think he definitely could have took the Independence title down to the wire against Josh Cook, because when he came back for Brands at the finale, he got 2 independent wins. Now, granted, that doesn't mean much, and you know, Cook had like 5 or 6 wins where Bobby Thompson wasn't around and he had to fight off the Vauxhalls, but I think the Independence title itself would have been a lot better had the Vauxhalls been more competitive. Not that they weren't, but had they been even more competitive than they were, they would have took more points off Cook and that team and given an actual fight. And also Bobby Thompson. And Bobby Thompson to me is after this year, I think I briefly said it last year, but if I didn't, I should have done, is that he's definitely an underrated talent. He's definitely someone that I think is up there. I don't think he's an Ash Sutton by any stretch, but is he a front-running driver? Potentially. Put him in a front-running car, we could find out. But I think, personally speaking, he's one of the drivers that hasn't had a proper chance, and he's doing a great job with the car he's got. Most specifically, he got 2 podiums this year, both at Brands Hatch, one at Indy and one at the GP. I think he might have got 3 actually, but I'm not sure. But I digress. He's done extremely well for what it was. But yeah, what did you make of Bobby Thompson when he was in it, Ben?
Yeah, when he's in it, he's really in it, isn't he? He can go against like at least the top 3 drivers. If he'd managed to get it and just keep on going with it, and like you said, not have the financial troubles, not have all the problems he had, I reckon he could have been contention for the top 3 of the year, really. More than just what went on throughout the year. It was sort of, he had more of a chance than you'd think, really, with like how it went down. And you know, he could have been such a brilliant guy to see, like you say, in the Independence title. Maybe it would have given some for Cook to go against, you know, and actually have a battle in your hands for that, which would have been great for Cook and the team. You know, brilliant for like Bobby Thompson, his team as well. You know, it'd been awesome. But I'm hoping this next season, what comes up, he's there from day 1, race 1, with a team, ready and going. Doesn't even matter what team. He's proven that he can get any car up the top of the grid.
Exactly. In terms of standout moments, though, Ben, have you got any that we haven't mentioned that could probably add on?
Knockhill was amazing. Race 1 and 2 being wet was like really great. Obviously, like my partner watched part of race 2 while I put the shopping away, because I've just been shopping, and even she said that it was really brilliant to watch and very interesting. She enjoyed it, and usually she's one of the people where she will not really enjoy motorists. It's not her thing, which is fine. Yeah, Jake Hill, he was his own worst enemy this year. There was so many times where he just took himself out, like at Knockhill in race 3, and I think Silverstone race 3 as well. He could have had a bigger chance of going into Brands Hatch with a lot more to play for, and he just, I don't know if he lost it just sort of with like the stress and sort of pressure of it all, and I don't know, but in the past he hasn't. It was just this year, it was sort of really sad to see. And then The brilliant thing was this year, we have tried to avoid mentioning it. I'm going to mention it. The Manufacturers Championship finally had like Ford do well in that. That was interesting. They beat BMW. Last time Ford won was back in 2000 with the Mondeo, the car that obviously I love a lot. So that's a cool, interesting thing to sort of think about for this season as well. And I'd say that was my sort of standout moments of what I liked.
Yeah, that good old Ford Mondeo with the rapid fit livery as well. Ironically, blue and yellow car.
Blue and yellow.
There's
blue and
another
yellow,
similarity. Yeah, it seems like
blue and yellow.
Blue and yellow, the killer combination in British touring cars.
Video.
But in terms of, there's probably one last thing we haven't really mentioned. So we did briefly mention in terms of like the championship fight and things like that. It seemed to be over pretty much after the first half of the season, with the Ingram looking like it was going to be a fight, but not a straightforward fight, like where it would be relying on one guy to completely trip up for the other guy to catch him, which was a bit of a shame. But again, what can you do? It's the way that the championship works. But one of the things that we've wrote down here is the fact that it was to do with Jake Hill. Yeah, well, basically, to kind of cut a long story short, as you probably said, then it was a case of, like you say, it was his own worst enemy. He made several.
I mentioned that in my bit.
Yeah. The thing is that you're not wrong.
No, and when he went on Midweek Motorsport, he did say that he is looking into the future. He wants to get more into endurance racing. I think this year coming up, 2024. I think he's going to try and go for his Nürburgring license. The only way you can compete in the Nürburgring 24 hours is you have to do a certain amount of races on the Nürburgring and have a certain amount of time and laps and everything in the car. So I could see him quite easily as just disappearing, because I think he wants to anyway. I think he wants to go and do other things, find out other things, and see what he can sort of do. I think that's why he's with the team he's with, is I think even they plan on sort of going off somewhere else to run in other series of endurance racing, because they have done in the past anyway, just not with him. So I can see him as going off into the sunset, probably even like maybe 2025, 2026. I can see him being gone. So it's not a bad thing, somebody else will come in, and you need a revolving door in any motorsport to keep it running, keep it interested. Will be sad if he does go, and I can see it happening, but I'll be very excited when I see him in endurance racing, so it won't be bad for me.
Yeah, I think it'd be a shame to see Jake go, because obviously I've grown to quite like the guy in the last 2 or 3 years. He has got that aggression, the same as Sutton has, and I think him, Ingram, and Sutton are between the three of them, three of the upcoming stars already are the stars of the BTCC at this current age. But
hybrid era is definitely them three on a poster.
In terms of the performances, then let's just quickly go through each one. So I say go through each one, but not exactly everything. But out of 10, Ben, what would you rate Napa Racing?
7 out of 10, purely for the fact of, yes, Sutton did it all, and yes, the team did really well with Sutton, but then if you look at every other driver after that, it's like you're going down the first drop of a roller coaster. So Camish was not as bad as Sutton, he was pretty good. Well, it was a bit worse than Sutton, should I say, but he had his moments where he did really well, and he did what was needed for the team. Rowbottom it wasn't his season. What we've seen in the past with him, it just went worse after the first weekend, and then Osborne, bless him, it's maybe early door for him to be doing really well, and hopefully he might do better in the future. Great that we saw obviously his car with a nice livery, and I think that was where he did the best of this season, was with a different livery, if I remember correctly, or at least it was in my eyes. Maybe it was just because there's more coverage of that livery. But yeah, they're a 7 out of 10.
Okay, what about your favourite, Tom Ingram's team? So Accelerate Motorsport, what would you give them?
Accelerate Motorsport, sadly a 6. purely for the fact of it's basically two guys and the others need more time in the sport, to put it like they just do. And I could see them both getting better with the cars, and I really hope they do. And Halstead behind the scenes, he's done so much insanity for the sport. We hopefully may cover that in another video. We'll have to see. Time is a big issue. But yeah, I'd say they're a 6 out of 10.
Okay, well, let's move on to... I'm going to combine 2 in 1 here, but what about the BMW squad? So that's the Laser Tools team and the actual WSR.
Yeah, because it makes more sense, because they try and label it as that, even though it isn't. They're like an 8 out of 10 because they really do have good drivers. They all are brilliant drivers. They just need to work as a cohesive team. But as the drivers themselves, they are all really, really good. There's no drop-off as such.
Interesting. About Toyota. So Toyota. Was it Yazoo
Toyota
Race?
is like a 6 out of 10 just because the drivers are both good, but the team just can't pull it through. And I don't know whether it's the car or something, but something's really not clicking this year. And in my eyes, I'd say that Collard was the lead guy for that team this year.
Interesting. Right, we're going to come to the one we talked about before, the dark horse of the season, which I thought it was. Power Max Racing, so the Vauxhall squad. What do you make of them, lot?
Yeah,
out of 10.
Like you said, out of 10, an 8 out of 10, just for that dark horseness. It's... Come on, at the start of the season, if you told me this, I would have literally tried to find some bookie site and put money on however it turned out, because I would have won a lot of money off that one team alone, because I would have never gone for that in a million years. I wouldn't have ever gone for, like, Dan Lloyd had a chance at winning a race. No way. Love the guy, really do, but no, that car just doesn't have it. But yet it did. And that was the thing this year. And it had it not just for him, it had it for, like, Doble, and it was just... Wow. Yeah, they are something of, hopefully, if they can keep how they're doing the second half of this season for next year... Oh man, that could be great to see.
I'd probably go... me personally, because I've got all the t-shirts, I'd give them a 9 out of 10 from me, just because of the fact that the merch is nice. I like the merch.
Okay, yeah, that's always a positive as well. That is a big positive. Me and you've always said
nothing against the merch. I've got a WSR t-shirt, I've got the Power Max Racing and a Napa shirt. And out of the 3 t-shirts, and I've got a Team Hard one, but we'll get to that when we get to them. But in terms of the t-shirts that I have touring car wise, it's a rough tie between Jake Hill's Laser Tools t-shirt and the Power Max Racing one. But I'd probably go, because I've got an 8 out of 10, I'd probably give the point to Power Max Racing. I'm a big fan of the turquoise teal cyan colour. I don't know what it's called.
The colours that they use are really nice.
Yeah.
It looks really good as well. Like when you see the big waterproof jackets and everything that they sell as well, they look just nice and clean. It's got a nice clean look to it that's not overbearing as well. Like really nice looking. They do really well in their merch. They should have big props on their merch.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of merch, let's move on to the opposite side. Let's go to One Motorsport. So the we'll call it an ex-Team Dynamics team, I guess, considering Team Dynamics has left, but they had a lot of assistance during the year. What did you make of that team?
They didn't have it. I think they need more off the car. They're a 5 out of 10 in my opinion, because the drivers don't seem to have it. The car just doesn't seem to have it at all. I'm pretty sure, like on the straights, like it just got pounced on, and I don't know. They really need to think of something and figure it out quickly going into the next season, because otherwise I could see them dropping down the grid, because like we said, Power Max Racing, they're getting their game together. So One Motorsport and Josh Cook could even lose his little independent stuff and not even have a chance of going for it if they carry on the way they've gone. It could they could be back of the grid, while Power Max Racing is sort of in the top 5 in some races and even further by the looks of how they did. So yeah, they need to figure something out quick.
Okay, interesting one. But right, Now we'll get to the last one. Now I'm going to sum this up. Rather than go through each individual little bit of Team Hard, we're just going to sum it up as Team Hard for, you know, the sake of everybody here, I think. But what would you give them out of 10?
3 out of 10. Yeah, it's obviously like Hamilton's performance by itself. If I just ripped him away from the team, I would have given it like a 7 out of 10 because that was just insanity, and he proved he could at least hold it on together in a hardcore wet race, letting people pass probably for his own benefit so he didn't come off, and he carried on. I think he had a couple of like, he sort of went in the grass in a few little bits, but he kept it going and kept to get that position, and then gained one more after the race as well. It was sort of like, it was awesome, but the team by itself, no, 3 out of 10.
Yeah, it's unsurprising you give it. It's unsurprising you give it a low one. I'd probably give him a little bit higher. I'd probably go with 4 out of 10 myself, but that's only because of the fact of the performances of Dan Lloyd and Bobby Thompson more than anything else. I think the rest of the team was just not there. Again, they had too many cars. It was just there is such a thing as too many cooks in the kitchen. That was just too many drivers, too many cars. They just overdid everything. But hopefully, if they, you know, if they reel, if they reel it back and say have half the cars, so 3 cars or even 4 like Napa do, that can actually run 4 cars, then that would be fine. But given it's 6 cars and they weren't even ready till the season starting, I think it was on the Saturday when they just finished Jade Edwards' car or something, or Friday, I'm not sure, but it was pretty ridiculous.
And it proved the point that she left the team midway through a season. That proves enough there as well.
Yeah, there was a lot to it.
Even up the grid, it's like she left to a team with a car that she knew had problems and still went, nah, I'm off.
Well, with the performances of the entire grid being rattled off there, we'll probably wrap that up there. I think we've talked about everything there is. But any final thoughts going into next season?
I hope it's better. I want to enjoy British touring cars a lot, and I just want to see more of an interesting season. It doesn't mean that I have to see like Napa win all the time or anything. No, that's fine. But it's just I want to see a bit more like just action. A lot of them races was just, it sort of reminded me of F1 in a way, where it was just like wherever they started on the grid, like a lot of them sort of finished and they weren't much backing and forth. And I don't want to see like Sutton do one and disappear up the road. I like him, if he still won, but like Ingram was on his tail for the whole like of the race. At least that'd be something. But he needs more action next year, hopefully.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed we get it. But on that note, we're going to wrap this video up here. Thank you very much for all your continued support throughout this year with this channel and with the content that we've made. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Like I said, hopefully you guys enjoyed our take on the 2023 season. Feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments. I'm pretty sure you've got a lot to say regarding the season and stuff we've mentioned. If there's anything we've missed, feel free to let us know in the comments what your personal highlights were yourself. What would you give the performances of each team out of 10? Again, let us know if you wish to do so. We will be back either before the end of the year or the start of next year regarding the off-season. And obviously we will catch you guys in the near future, where we will start talking in more detail about the 2024 British Touring Car season. Sounds like it's a long way away, but trust me, it'll come faster than you think. So on that note, thank you very much for watching. Have yourselves a great evening wherever you are in the world. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you all in our next video. So until then, ta-ra!
Bye.